Alright, so we're through to the grand final of the Rising Empires Weekly 26, formerly known as the War Chief Club and Low Elo Legends. So check it all out, guys, because it's now a three-tiered competition. And we're here in the top tier, grand final for the week, with Nush and the Yellow Trunks on Abbasid, the top side. On the lower side of the map, got DFP, and the Blue Trunks is also on Abbasid. So, mirror matchup, and we're here on Lepani, so should be a pretty good map. It looks like the golds and stuff are all pretty similar here. Although the stone is a little bit more exposed here for Nush starting out. And this hill here might prove to be a bit of a benefit to DFP really, because it makes it quite hard to actually try and harass him from this flank and get to any of these stone mines here. It's a bit of a natural wall off. It won't take much for him to actually wall like right there and even just over there. Be very, very cheap and effective. Nush a little bit more exposed over here, so bloody seeding. Can we re? So we're here in the best of three with Divine DFP taking the first game, so it's all on the line for Nush, while DFP, he wins this, he goes home the champion. So it's a nice spot for this House of Wisdom, gonna mean that the next mining camp is gonna tie up to that instantly. That's what he's looking to go for. DFP actually just gathering a little bit more wood so he can go for his House of Wisdom. Probably looking to get it over here. Oh no, he's just going to send the wood gatherer. So players, one scout apiece. Eco Wing just starting out for Nush, be slightly slower for DFP. Right now builds pretty similar. There's a lot of gold here in the center as well, so whoever can really get the map control early, probably going to walk away the victor, particularly considering Nush's hunts are right in front of his base as well. And saying that, he does have a nice berries there, if he can secure this area. Or over here, whereas DFP is going to have to expand outwards beyond the safety of his wood lines to get to his second and third berries. And normally hunts are better than berries, but for a civ like Abbasid, I think it's pretty even. Because you've got that bonus gather rate and because you've got the extra capacity at the berries when you put the mill of Abbasid or Delhi near them. So Eco Wing, sorry. I was going to say Culture Wing. Eco Wing for both players. About 30 seconds faster here for Nush. So having not invested in the mill yet, it's going to mean Nush gets going slightly faster, but at the same time, DFP is going to have taken this frontside berries out of the equation by the time Nush is pushing into him. He can fall back to his sheep, whereas Nush is going to have to expand outwards to the mill. So that's really the only difference so far between their builds, and that's basically the reason why there is a 30-second delay between their builds. DFP going for wheelbarrow before his age up finishes, while Nush has already managed to get that fresh foodstuffs and Fertile Crescent there. So Fertile Crescent going to make it so that his town centers 200 resources cheaper, or just under that really. It's about 190 for the cost of 100 resources. On top of that, the mill would be a little bit cheaper as well. Should sort of take it to exactly 200. DFP be looking to do the same thing now, getting Fertile Crescent. Would have gotten fresh foodstuffs as early as he can as well, just to really get that tech to pay off as quickly as possible. Because while gather rate techs, you tend to want to try and hold out till you get to about, or maybe 8 to 10 villages on that resource consistently. With villager cost reduction, you sort of want to get that as quickly as you can. I guess same deal with eco building cost reduction. So houses and drop-off points, town centers are all cheaper. So it's a somewhat moderately enclosed map as well, so players, at least Nush, opting to go for stables first to get some pressure out in the map. So otherwise, you know, there's a little bit of walk time to get to your opponent. It's not exactly the shortest rush distance when you factor in all this crap that's in the middle of the map. Nush going to add a barracks as well. DFP just going for that quicker second town center at this point. Nush will be going for his second town center now. So the eco gap will slightly favor DFP here, I think, but Nush going to be able to get going a bit faster. That first horseman. So he can start pressuring the berries, but until he's got a couple of these guys, he's probably not going to get a villager kill. It does cost DFP a bit of gather time. But DFP up to 3 town centers already. Nush a little way to go before he's there as well. But it's never been a better time to play 3 TC Abbasid. Usually, back when Fresh Foodstuffs was here and there was no Fertile Crescent tech, you'd see 2 TC nearly every game, but 3 TC was often just slightly too expensive. And, you know, kicking a little bit too late to really be of value against all the civs that played a more, you know, aggressive tempo game. Where they just pick you apart, or, you know, timings like Burgrave Palace, fast Castle Age sort of stuff would also kick in, you know, pretty much at the same time you'd gotten the third town center. So, sort of not so good as it is now. But in saying that, a lot of other builds have been buffed across the board in that, you know, that earlier mid game. So double barracks here for DFP. Oh yeah, we've got stables barracks so far for Nush. Hasn't really committed any military yet because he's wanting to go for his third town center. I do like this placement because it means these 2 TCs shadow each other. It's hard to push in with the ram and melee around this because you can, you know, garrison 20 villages between the two. It's almost as good as, you know, your starting town center basically, except that, you know, individually these are squishier. This has got a base attack, but ultimately, you know, you can only garrison 15 rather than 20 villages there. So, sort of good because they're like 2 Rus fortresses covering each other basically. Similar sort of idea, but with your TCs. But both players abstaining from really training a lot. Trying to just barrel towards Castle Age quickly, I'm assuming. Both of them wanting to wall off this segment over here. But it looks like DFP will get there faster. Just a minimal number of spears for now, just to defend against the horseman here from Nush. He's added a range now as well, but he's just opting to go for archers. He was thinking camel archers, but no, he'll save himself a little bit of resources. 3 archers instead of 1 camel. Just in case DFP is also looking to do the same thing. And on top of that, you know, so far he's only fielded spears, so archers will at least give him a bit of go forward against that. And I mean, the camel archer will as well, but for the price of 3 archers overall. They're going to be able to waste the spears or a villager a little bit quicker. So it looks like Nush is actually going to trap this villager, force him to walk the long way round or actually gate to get himself out of here. Although Nush is going to have to try and wall off this segment or even over here if he can while DFP's building this. If he really wants to trap that villager and force his opponent to have to commit to 2 gates this early on for no reason at all other than to save the villager, you know, and cost an extra 50 wood. But in saying that, he could always just chop his way through here as well. That's another thing, you know. If players have the time to stop and think about it, they'll always do it. But sometimes they might panic and, oh fuck, I've got to go for, you know, 2 gates or try and walk the long way around. But Nush hasn't actually opted to wall this in. I thought he was going to be cheeky. Bit of an engagement here. One of those spears being picked off. The rest of the villagers and spears being evacuated. Can't really stick around at the moment. Oh, actually, the spears have come back to try and snipe this villager that Nush has forgot about. So that's a big rip. And the archer's being picked off, and DFP hitting Castle Age. So he's gone for his military wing, while Nush is going for culture wing because he wants to get cheap preservation of knowledge. I mean, get preservation of knowledge and get very cheap technologies across the board with that, because both military and eco-techs are 20% cheaper. So, you know, blacksmith upgrades or taking your veteran upgrades, all of it, everything. DFP slightly ahead in the Vil count because he did go for, ultimately was a quicker 3 town center build there. Nush wasn't really able to apply any early pressure. Did have a lot of map awareness, but didn't really actually get anything out of it. His own age up finishing now, so he's gone culture wing. But military wing is going to mean DFP's infantry are going to be really, really solid. And then if he goes Imperial, he can also upgrade his camels. But yeah, reload time on archers and health on infantry across the board is very useful because both man-at-arms and spears are going to benefit, as well as, you know, archers and crossbows. DFP going to have to come and clean this up, but a pair of camels should be enough of a deterrent there. Spearman being picked off in his attempt to try and slow down the wall there. It's a lot of text coming in for Nush at the moment, whereas DFP, no blacksmith text yet. Not. Oh, he's already got his castle wood and gold text, but not his food tech. And these are going to be a lot cheaper here for Nush. So 20% off. Quite significant. Looks like the cavalry not really finding a way out there. And Nush is also population capped at the moment, while DFP 20 pop up on him. Got a house on the way? Yeah, he's getting houses now. So a small mistake there from Nush, getting pop capped like that. It's also a nice cheeky outpost spot though. Will be a good deterrent to those wood gatherers. DFP will have to come down here or start chopping further up the top of his base. And Nush's walls have actually given him a bit more access to wood overall because he's got these small clumps of trees behind them, but DFP is not going to give him any control of the map easily here. He's going to tear down the gate, take advantage of the fact that he's slightly up on the military count at the moment, but at the same time Nush pushing in with the Lancer. Well timed here, he can dissuade a lot of gatherers. Oh, a lot of low villagers making it out of there, which is not great for him. Textile's not research for Nush, but is for DFP, so that actually proved to be the difference there, saving those 3 villagers. So, guys, get the fucking tech, okay? Pretend it's Loom from Age of Empires 2. You don't have to get it as early, though. I will concede that. Like, in AoE 2 and AoE O, I know it's really common to get Loom, which is the equivalent of Textiles in this game. Basically, if you're going to be pop capped, but also age up, it's common to basically take Loom and age, or age then Loom. Or otherwise, yeah, if you're going to get pop capped at all in the early game, just take Loom while you're building the house. Like, you can't build a villager, so you might as well spend pretty much the same amount of resources getting something that will benefit every villager of yours for the rest of the game. Pretend it's a blacksmith tech, guys. So DFP adding some rams. Also going to add a Springald as well, because it'll mean Nush can't really just use the cop-out of using his own Springalds to clean up the rams, or using a Mangonel to be a nice deterrent against all this infantry, because both of them are playing very infantry-heavy comps overall. Nice split between melee and range for both of them. It looks like DFP is fielding a lot more in the way of range here with his crossbows. And that plus the Springald is giving him a bit more range over Nush at the moment. Looks like Nush will be able to clean up the rams while this is going on. And he is still raiding with the Lancer, but he has closed that village gap a little bit, but he has lost that Lancer in the process. He's gone for a Springald Tower here. So he's able to start chipping away at those stone gatherers. So Nush is creeping ahead in the Vil count at the moment. Couple of idlers though. Slightly down on army value and kill value at the moment, and he has got 2 relics behind this. A second relic about to be garrisoned for DFP. So Nush trailing, but not by a huge amount really, and he's actually starting to creep ahead on Eco here. Catch himself back up a little bit. It's always good, even if you are behind a bit. If your Eco is bigger, you won't be behind eventually. As long as you don't die. So the fortified outpost proved to be pretty resilient there, considering the only real semi-anti-building siege there is the Mangonel, and even then they're nowhere near as good as a Treb or Bombards. They're more designed for, you know, taking on infantry. DFP have to be very careful to not overextend with it, because the Springalds, you know, the pair of them will just one-shot it. And Nush now, his military is struggling. He hasn't got anything resembling the front line of DFP at the moment. And then they've got a couple of spears in front, while the man-at-arms for DFP able to tank quite well and force Nush to actually have to produce all these expensive camel archers, which I believe overall will lose fights against both crossbows and archers on cost. The Mangonel going down, so that's a nice blow for Nush. Bit expensive for DFP. But meanwhile, he's got his own Mangonel, his own Treb out in the field, so he can start taking out these structures with ease now. Though it is focusing a mining camp instead of a production facility. It's not ideal, but at the moment DFP still leading with the army. Now slightly ahead with eco count, but some of it is idle, some of it is having to stop to produce the keep. So you got to factor these things in. And that's just done a reasonable job at trying to wall DFP in. He really only just missed the opportunity to do either there or there. You can always run a wall segment across the other side of the wall of DFP. Control that sacred site. DFP yet to get on one, so the gold trickle is actually favouring Nush as well. as long as he can keep this eco busy, he's actually economically ahead by a little bit overall. On top of that, all these upgrades that he's been getting, they're going to cost him bugger all compared to what they're going to cost DFP. But in saying that, DFP's army size is twice that of Nush's, and this keep of his is, you know, behind enemy lines at this point. It's, you know, going to cut him off from all these resources. If he can get up there, if he can send something to scout it out, he can really deny all this. There's only the one villager. There's all these stone gatherers up here to kill. So DFP, sorry, Nush probably looking to try and throw down another defensive keep, just in case this one's going to fall. You know, have one tucked over here or over here, just to help protect some resources, and a mix of resources too, which is the main thing. Trebs focusing down one another's keeps at the moment, but Nush again not quite left at the front line of DFP after their engagement, and so DFP able to creep forward, although half his army is stopping to attack the mining camp, which is not great for him. And now he's fighting under the keep of Nush, which will still be up for a little while. I don't know if he's going to be able to get both of these upgrades here, unless he can send a few vills to repair this, and these guys have actually gone to the wrong side of the keep. He wants them back on the far side so that the crossbows sort of forced to stand further under the keep's fire, or, you know, even be attacking the keep, which would be a bit of a loss considering they don't really have the damage of the trebuchets. So DFP taking a sacred behind this himself, going to get a second now. Now still ahead on Eco Pop, but again he's had a lot more idlers most of the game. DFP's done a really good job at keeping his villagers busy all game. Not saying that Nush has done a particularly bad job at it, I've just noticed a couple of times he's been up, no matter what, and like even now with DFP with 26 idle, oh there we go, now he's got a lot more idle. This might prove to be Nush's saving grace if DFP's not fast enough to keep pushing here. Boiling oil will still finish off though, so any towers and keeps he can make from here will be a lot stronger than they were. But Nush is still trailing on that army pop, though DFP is trailing on overall siege population and still has a reasonable number of springalds, so this could be tough for Nush if he loses these mangonels. He's really starting to trail in terms of the infantry at the moment. He's basically just got siege and static defense as well as some of these men-at-arms. He needs to get these villagers back in action. DFP forward production here, a lot of barracks. Doesn't even mind that Nush has been building a few mangonels. He's just going to double down on that man-at-arms production, and in fact he's staying maxed out through this. Nush struggling to do so. Again, up in idler villages, which sort of helps offset the extra villages, and on top of that it makes it harder to actually match your opponent's army size. Just to keep, which is sort of good for DFP. It means he doesn't have to worry about sending any units to go and break through another segment of the wall, because they'll eventually have to keep cut through anyway for him. Which again gives Nush something else to have to worry about in the midst of all this. And another little raid here by DFP as well, applying little by little more pressure around different parts of the map while continuing this front push. So Nush is going to try and get Imperial Age through this. He's going to have to sacrifice a lot of resources and buy himself some time while that finishes off. So DFP is going to take out some of these forward production buildings. Nush can just continue to move his army further and further back. Just make sure he's got a couple of extra houses and a couple of extra military buildings until this imp can finish. It's DFP population captain. He's only got that's 78 military population overall, so No rams, only a couple of trebs there. And he's not going for Imperial Age himself. Hasn't taken composite bows because he's just been relying on crossbows all game. Which the beauty of that is it's really deterred Nush from actually fielding much in the way of man-at-arms. He's just been making spears all along, and so far it hasn't been working out for him, I don't think. DFP's willing to just go for it now. Got Siege on the run. Imperial Age kicks in here for Nush, but I think it's too little too late, and it's an expensive commitment. Got a lot of gold in the bank, but he needs food so he can keep producing through this. DFP getting a forward keep. He's going to work his way towards the landmark structures here. Also, composite bows coming out. And boot camp for Nush. I would have thought he'd taken boot camp a lot earlier than this. It's a bit of a shame. He's taken military wing, but he never got boot camp. Been really nice considering he had spears and archers. Well, not so many archers. He had spears, but he mostly was relying on camel archers for a lot of it. But even still, it's a bit slow to be pumping that out now. Let's have a culverin so they can really deter these troops from overextending, but at the same time, there's nothing to protect it. And now Nush, GG, taps out from there.